Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, and Terrence Ferguson are three players whose ADPs just don't make sense. I'll explain why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Still no co-host. As you can see, it's a solo show. However, we do have some news that's going to be coming up in the next few days, so be on the lookout for that. On today's show, we're going to take a look at three players whose ADPs just don't quite make sense. We have some recent ADP from Dynasty League Football, so make sure you go check that out. Our first player is none other than Brock Purdy, the the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, who just signed a new contract extension. And frankly, I don't get why his ADP is as low as it is. He's been somebody who's been uber productive whenever he's been on the field. I understand that last year was a down season for Brock Purdy, but if you look at his first 36 starts, and that's all we have right now, first 36 regular season starts, he's averaging over 256 passing yards per game, 1.7 touchdowns per game, zero point 0.7 interceptions. Doesn't give you a ton as a runner, but does have 8 rushing touchdowns during those 36 games. Is giving you about 15 rushing yards. So it's not nothing, but don't get confused. This isn't Lamar Jackson or anything like that. But you prorate that over the course of a 17-game schedule. For his career, you're looking at 4,400 passing yards, 29 passing touchdowns, 33 overall touchdowns. And to me, that is pretty clearly a low-end QB1, high-end QB2. But right now, for whatever reason, dynasty managers aren't valuing Brock Purdy that way. If you look at the recent batch of ADP over on Dynasty League Football, you can see that his ADP has actually dropped pretty consistently over the last few months. Right now, he is quarterback 19. Quarterback 19. Not too long ago, Brock Purdy was a top 12, top 13 quarterback, and he was in the same range as CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not sure why we have such a significant drop here. A couple things. One of our concerns about Brock Purdy kind of coming, into this year is, hey, maybe the 49ers won't give him a contract. Maybe they'll just decide to let it play out and see how he does. But that's not the case. They've just given him a monster deal that's going to lock him in to being San Francisco's quarterback for at least the next 3 years, probably beyond that. So you're getting a quarterback that's in one of the most favorable situations in the league with Kyle Shanahan, who's not going away anytime soon. Yes, the weapons are a little bit of a concern compared to where they were a couple years ago, but this is still a pretty good offense with hopefully Brandon Ayuk coming back on a long-term deal. Jaywan Jennings, George Kittle just signed a long-term deal. We'll see what happens with Christian McCaffrey, whether he's able to get healthy. They did draft Ricky Pearsall in round 1. So one of the things that we know about the 49ers is that they're going to make sure they have an adequate amount of weapons surrounding Brock Purdy. We know the coaching is going to be really good. And it's not like Brock Purdy is, some 28, 29-year-old quarterback. He's 25. And again, 36 career starts. I think it's feasible to believe that his best football is still ahead of him. I've never been a Brock Purdy honk or fan or whatever, but I actually thought he showed a lot last year when the situation was awful. The offensive line crumbled around him. He had all the injuries. I actually thought he was a better quarterback than maybe he was a year ago, playing with the Avengers around him. I do think Purdy has another level that he can get to, but he doesn't even need to improve to be fantasy relevant. And I look at some of the quarterbacks that are going ahead of him. For example, J.J. McCarthy, QB 18. I like McCarthy. Obviously, the situation is unbelievable. Kevin O'Connell, one of the best offensive minds in the league. But we don't know if J.J. McCarthy's good or if he could stay healthy. The fact that Brock Purdy at age 25, who's already been productive multiple years in his career, is going behind him, I don't get. Dak Prescott, QB 17. I love Dak. I'm obviously big Cowboy fan. I think Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens could have a really big year. But Dak has had a bunch of injuries over the last couple of years. 2020, he had the major ankle surgery, injury, had the surgery, missed the year. 2021, he had a shoulder injury. 2022, he had a thumb injury and a calf injury. 2024, obviously has a hamstring injury that cost him 9 games in that season. He's been beat up, and he doesn't offer a lot as a runner, and he's 31 years old, and you're talking about a 3-4 spot gap. In terms of overall ADP, Dak Prescott 140.1, Brock Purdy 149.5. I don't understand why there's a round difference between those two quarterbacks. And frankly, I would prefer Purdy straight up. If I can trade my 31-year-old Dak for Brock Purdy, I do that in a heartbeat. And then you even get to quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence. And I understand the reasoning why Trevor Lawrence is ahead of Brock Purdy. If I were ranking them, I probably would put Lawrence ahead of Purdy because I believe in Lawrence's talent. I like the situation better this year with Liam Cohen and Travis Hunter. But there's been no debate who's been the better quarterback over the last 2 years. And there's absolutely no debate on who's been the better fantasy quarterback over the last 2 years. It's Brock Purdy. They're the same exact age. And you can get Brock Purdy 2, sometimes even 3 rounds later. So if I'm in a 2 QB league right now, super flex league, I think Purdy is one of my favorite buys because great situation, great coach. He's young, and now we know that the 49ers are committed to him financially over the next 3 years, likely beyond that, probably more like 4 or 5 years. Buy Brock Purdy right now before that value continues to rise, because once the season starts, and I can promise you this is going to happen, the 49ers have, I think, the easiest schedule in the NFL. Go look at their opponents this year. Like, they are going to win. How bold do I want to be? They're going to win at least 10 games this year. I think it's more like 11 or 12. They are just going to run up the score on a lot of these teams. And once the season starts and Purdy starts to put together, these 5-yard games, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions with 25 rushing yards, we're all going to wonder, hey, how was Brock Purdy QB 19 this offseason? Why was he ahead of guys like Dak Prescott and J.J. McCarthy and maybe even Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff? Go buy Brock Purdy right now because that ADP makes no sense at all. No sense. I would love to hear what you guys think about Brock Purdy. Is QB 19 right? Is it too low, too high? Let me know at Marcus_Mosher and over on at Locked On Dynasty. All right, let's talk about a running back whose ADP I can't understand for the life of me. I don't get it at all. It's Breece Hall. Why is he still being valued as RB6? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and your spending in one place, so you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. I've started using Monarch Money. It's probably been 4 or 5 months now. And I can't believe how much money I was wasting on trivial stuff, like just stuff that doesn't matter, like coffee runs or extra packs of football cards. But now I am budgeting smarter and I am saving more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. On today's show, we're taking a look at 3 players whose ADPs just don't make sense. We just got done talking about Brock Purdy. Let's talk about Breece Hall. who is still RB6 in Dynasty leagues right now. Just a couple months ago, he was hovering in that RB4, RB5 range. Listen, I understand the appeal for Breece Hall. Like I totally get it. This is somebody who flashed as a rookie, was fantastic during that rookie season. We know the talent's there. Now, I don't think he is a Ashton Genty or Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs type of talent, but he's pretty darn good. Like I have no qualms about the talent. And I understand last year that he was pretty productive. 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. 2023 coming back from the injury, 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns total. So I get it. Like he's been a pretty productive running back. But everything we've heard this offseason suggests that this is not going to be a Breece Hall led backfield all by himself. Now, I will say, adding Justin Fields, anytime you add a mobile quarterback, it greatly helps the running back. I mean, the perfect example of this is Lamar Jackson and all of the running backs he's played with, whether it's been Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and now Derrick Henry. Having a mobile quarterback is a cheat code for running backs. It just opens up the rushing lanes. Teams have to honor the quarterback keepers and the read options and all that kind of stuff. So there is a scenario here where Justin Fields is so dynamic as a runner that it opens up more opportunities for Breece Hall. However, I still have some major concerns about this Jets offense. I think I think Justin Fields is a fantastic runner. I still have doubts about him as a quarterback, which means I have doubts about this offense. How many times is this Jets offense going to be in scoring positions to give Breece Hall touchdown looks? I also think the Jets have a really good defense, and I think they're going to want to try to grind out these games. Now, that defense wasn't great last year, but I think the hope from Aaron Glenn is that he can get that unit back to playing at an elite level. I just look at this team as, one where they're going to maybe try to take the air out of the football, which is great for Breece Hall. But one of the things that Aaron Glenn said this offseason is that he envisions this backfield being a running back by committee approach. They've got multiple talented running backs on this roster outside of Breece Hall. And I think someone like Braylon Allen, who was a day 3 pick last year, who actually showed pretty well during his rookie season, could be in line for some more work. Now, does that help keep Breece Hall fresh and maybe not put so much wear and tear on his tires? We'll see. But to me, it sounds like this could be a backfield where maybe Breece Hall is getting 15, 16, 17 touches a game rather than 22, 23. And I think that scares me just a little bit. Let's look at his ADP over on Dynasty League Football. It's been a pretty steady decline since about October last year. 24th overall right now. His ADP is 26 on the dot. But what I don't understand, and maybe this is where I'm having some issues, I understand the top 4 running backs: Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ashton Genty, Saquon Barkley. Like, those are clear cut. Things do get a little hairy after those guys. Devon Achane is currently RB5. I think that's a little rich, but I'm looking at some of these other running backs. Like, I'll give you an example. Omarion Hampton, RB7 right now. I don't know if there's any scenario in which I would take Breece Hall, who is going into the final year of his contract, who is on, let's just be honest, a bad offense, who's had a major knee injury early in his career, who's likely to split touches with a bunch of other running backs. I don't know how I can take him over Omarion Hampton, who was just a first-round pick by the Chargers on an offense with Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, who love to run the football. And the only running back there that I have to worry about is Najee Harris on a 1-year deal. Like, I think Omarion Hampton is just such... I think the talent is similar. Let me say that. I do think the talent is similar. I don't think the situations are the same. I expect this Chargers offense to be much, much better. And I'll give you another name. Jonathan Taylor, RB9. I am so bullish on Jonathan Taylor this year. I understand he's a few years older, but I think Jonathan Taylor is just a much better player than Breece Hall. He's got the contract from the Colts. We talked about DJ Giddens last week potentially being a nice, buy low, handcuff. But Jonathan Taylor is going to get a million touches in this offense. And we've already seen him be an RB1 or the overall RB1, lead the NFL in rushing yards. I prefer Jonathan Taylor. And if I'm in a startup draft and we're getting to the back end of round two, and again, these are non-super flex drafts, but we're getting to the back end of round two and the top end of round three, and I'm looking at names like, I don't know, Garrett Wilson, his teammate, Travis Hunter, Omarion Hampton, Jonathan Taylor, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Rashee Rice. Like, I'm just taking all of those guys over Breece Hall. So I've actually traded Breece Hall in the last couple of days. I've moved him for Drake London and some other pieces. I do think Breece Hall has some big time name value. And I do think there's going to be a couple managers in your league that are maybe open to seeing what the Breece Hall trade market looks like. Let's actually explore a couple trades that have happened involving Breece Hall over the last couple days. We've got Breece Hall for Rashee Rice straight up. I would take Rice, but obviously that's going to depend on what your running back situation looks like. We've got Breece Hall for Travion Henderson and a 2026 second round pick. I would actually prefer Hall in that situation. I love Travion Henderson. I'm a big fan. That feels like selling a little bit low right now over on Dynasty League Football. Travion Henderson being ranked as RB12. While I think Breece Hall should be in that range, I would prefer Hall. So that's one. If you want to go out and get Hall, that makes sense. A couple others. Breece Hall for Travis Etienne and pick 110. I would take Hall in that situation. One more. Breece Hall for Marvin Harrison Jr. The Breece Hall side also sent a 2026 second round pick. Would do that in a heartbeat. So we are seeing a lot of trade action involving Breece Hall. I'm looking right now. We've got, just dozens and dozens of trades. Here's another one. And this one I really like. Breece Hall for James Cook, who one of my favorite running backs right now, one of my favorite buy low running backs. Kyle Williams, the third round pick for the Patriots. Again, another one of my favorite players coming into the draft, and a 2025 second round pick. I think that's a good way to break down Breece Hall if you want to try to get out of the business now. Not a bad trade. One more, and these are the ones I wouldn't do. Breece Hall for Isaiah Pacheco, Jamison Williams. No, that's too cheap. Breece Hall for Josh Jacobs. I wouldn't do that. I would hold on to Breece Hall, who is the far younger and more healthy player. Josh Jacobs, 27, so you're getting 4 years older. But go out and explore the Breece Hall trade market right now, because I do think there's a pretty massive gap between RB4 right now, who is Saquon Barkley, and whoever you call RB5. I think that's Omarion Hampton for me. I would also make an argument for Jonathan Taylor, but if Breece Hall is being valued as a top 5, top 6 running back in your leagues, I think now is the time to trade before we get into the season. Remember, the Jets have a very tough schedule early on, especially against opposing defenses. So I think now is a good time to trade before we get into the year. We've realized that this might be a heavier running back by committee approach than maybe anybody anticipates. All right, let's talk about a tight end that I think is extremely undervalued right now in your dynasty leagues, and that's Terrence Ferguson of the Los Angeles Rams. We will get to that next. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. As training camps get closer, and we are getting closer, I was already looking at my calendar to see how many free weekends I have before we get to training camp and preseason. So before training camps get here, with roster moves still being made today, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's take a look at one more player here whose ADP just doesn't make any sense. And that is Terrance Ferguson of the Los Angeles Rams, a second-round pick in this year's draft. I was watching the series that the Rams put out the other day, kind of exploring their draft. They always do these really good during the draft videos, kind of explaining their process. And it was pretty clear that Terrence Ferguson was Sean McVay's guy and that they were trying to trade up to go get Terrence Ferguson. They just did not want to leave this draft without him. And McVay talked about the vision he has for this player. And as somebody who was already a Terrence Ferguson fan, kind of coming into the pre-draft process, landing with the Rams and hearing Sean McVay talk about how he fits into this offense just has me all sorts of jazzed up. So, a couple things here really quickly. You look at this offense right now, and it's Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Tyler Higbee. But there's a very good chance that Tyler Higbee and Devontae Adams they're gone. They're not on this roster by 2026. And that means that could open up a lot of opportunities for Terrence Ferguson. We should also mention Puka Nacua. Despite how great he's been in the NFL, it's not like he's been the most durable receiver. Now, there is concerns, obviously, about like what does this quarterback situation look like post Matt Stafford. I trust Sean McVay to figure it out, whether it's signing somebody else, whether it's getting another reclamation project, whether it's trading for somebody. I also think there are going to be quarterbacks that just want to go play for Sean McVay. Maybe that'll take less money to go live in LA and play for Sean McVay. That's really appealing for me. I just think this is a really talented pass catching tight end who doesn't really give you a lot as a blocker, which is perfect for us in fantasy, right? Like we want the tight ends that are on the field because of their pass catching ability. Let's take a look at his overall ADP right now. 171 right now in terms of ranking 158. I'm looking at some of the tight ends that are being drafted ahead of him. And let me give you a couple names that just don't make any sense to me. Pat Freiermuth, the tight end for the Steelers, tight end 20. He's 26, so he's still young. But we've seen enough of Pat Freiermuth to know, like, he's not somebody who is ever going to make a difference in your fantasy league. Like, he is incredibly replaceable right now. I mean, you can find production like Pat Freiermuth wherever. Evan Ingram, who is now on his third team. He's with the Denver Broncos. He's 30. We'll see. I have some doubts. You have Isaiah Likely, who continues to be blocked by Mark Andrews. I would prefer Likely over Ferguson. But another tight end, Jake Ferguson for the Cowboys, 26 going into the last year of his contract. Dallas drafted Luke Schoonmaker in the second round. They have this undrafted free agent in Brevin Spann-Ford, who they like quite a bit. I'll give you a couple others. Let's keep going higher. Travis Kelce, tight end 13 at 35 years old. Kelce looked done to me last year. I mean, he looked done. I can't understand the reasoning behind having Travis Kelce that much higher than Ferguson, who is going to be involved in this offense. How about Kyle Pitts, tight end 12? I am a Kyle Pitts truther. I think injuries kind of have robbed us of a really fun Kyle Pitts, but there's just no way that I would take Kyle Pitts right now over Terrence Ferguson. I'm sorry. I just don't trust it. When you hear some of the things that Zach Robinson has been saying about Kyle Pitts, that, hey, he just needs to keep working harder, keep running every route, it just doesn't sound like they love him right now. So how aggressive should you be getting Terrence Ferguson? Well, if you're in your rookie drafts right now, you can generally get him at the end of the second, top of the third, generally. Right now, if you're looking over on dynastyleaguefootball.com, his overall ADP in rookie drafts it's way down there, 24. I've seen him fall a little bit in these drafts. I've seen him be available later than that. But make no mistake, this is somebody that I want on every one of my teams because I do think he's going to have a role as a rookie. I don't know if he's going to be startable in your dynasty leagues as a rookie, but I do think by 2026, once Devontae Adams is gone, once Tyler Higbee is out of there, once Ferguson learns this offense, he is going to be a big-time player. We saw last year when Tyler Higbee was healthy, how often the Rams went to him. Like they just used him a lot as an outlet receiver. Ferguson is a much better athlete than Tyler Higbee, and frankly, he's just a much better receiver. I don't see any way in which Tyler Higbee is on this team in 2026. Maybe he comes back on a reduced contract and they use him more as a blocker. But it's clear Sean McVay has a vision for Terrence Ferguson. And when Sean McVay does this, and he had it for Puka Nacua, he had it for Cooper Kupp, he had it for Kyron Williams, when he has a vision for these players, he's going to want to make sure he force feeds them the football to make him look right. And a lot of times McVay knows how to develop these guys. He has not had a tight end like this that has been this dynamic really ever. Maybe you have to go back to Washington. I'll have to even check if Jordan Reed was the tight end there when Sean McVay was there. I think Terrence Ferguson right now at the end of the second round, top of the third round of your rookie drafts is an incredible steal. So there you go. Those are the three players: Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, and Terrence Ferguson. I would love to know which players you think their ADPs just don't line up right now from how you view them going into the 2025 season and beyond. Please let me know. You can do so at Marcus_Mosher. Do it over at Locked On Dynasty on Twitter. And make sure you check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. We have shows coming out every single day. Again, we will have some co-host news probably later in the week, if not earlier. We'll have guests all week long. Matt Williamson's going to be here on Wednesday. So follow Locked On Dynasty wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you right back here on Tuesday.